operate or function, how it's going to affect school districts without funding. And they're making those observations that we are those guarantees that that's what's going to provide. And you're right. So how do we ensure that, you know, the kids being taught at school or the kids being, and the reality is not all kids learn virtually. Not all kids are going to be able to learn
But
virtually.
even at school with what, distance and plexiglass and all this stuff, I mean, learning this fall is not going to look like learning last fall. And that's the sad
And for
reality.
politicians to make those guarantees, that's not right. And so I do have issue with that, you know.
Kind of one of the analogies I use a lot of times when I'm talking to people, a normal childhood. A normal childhood is whatever you lived. Okay, if the normal childhood to you was two parents always there, you know, Sunday dinner, everybody gathered around the table, that's normal. If your normal childhood was one parent that was barely there, and a lot of times you taught yourself or took care of yourself, that was your normal. And right now, what we're dealing with is, this is the new normal. And as our pastor,
2020, I have hope.
yeah, I have hope for it, and I have hope that, you know, even with all the restrictions and all the problems and all the things that we're going through, that the kids will turn out okay. That the kids will learn things they need to learn to become productive citizens. The reality of it is it's different than what it was a year ago. It's going to be different. It's going to be different from our standpoint, what we're providing, what we're looking for, even to the point of what teachers you're hiring.
Well, I mean, are we even suggesting the TEA, or, I mean, this is a district issue in terms of saying your expectations are impossible. I mean,
I've written a letter.
Okay.
I'd be happy to share the address.
So what's the guidance they give us, for example, for accountability on STAR testing? I mean, kids at home can't take the STAR test at home.
They're working on that, they've said.
Well, that's one thing that, you know, they do have, you know, an idea about is that they haven't dropped the STAR testing
They
result.
put out the guidelines about STAR testing before they put the guidelines out about health and safety.
Right.
You tell me the priorities, you know, I mean, and that's where we have issues.
Well, the bigger issues are true accountability. In the end, remote learning, no matter what we put in place, we probably are going to have difficulty achieving the accountability that the state wants us to have in those environments.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
That's unreasonable expectation.
it is, but we're trying to build a system with that in mind. And I think the reality is we have to accept the limitations that we have and help parents understand the bottom line is, you know, if you're concerned about COVID, you will never come back to school. COVID is not going away. We may have a vaccine. We have a vaccine for the flu. We get the flu every year. If COVID continues to work through our population with its death rate, if it stays as it is, no one will be in a position to feel safe to come back to school. And I'm worried that we're building a system attempting to reach 100% safety at the expense of education. And if that's what it is, fine, let's be honest about it and say, we cannot provide the education that we would like to provide because of these terms.
Do you think that's not true?
Do what?
Do you think that's untrue?
What, that we cannot?
Yeah, do you think?
I do not think that we can provide the education that we're required to provide without in-person learning, because that's the best opportunity they have. Because you can't tell me that parents at home are going to be able to provide the time. You can't tell me that a child with a lesson is going to spend 25 minutes an hour working on a lesson. I mean, there's no way in reality that that's going to happen.
I agree with you.
And so,
In-person learning is the best.
Yeah, I mean, we're not disagreeing with that. I mean, as I just said, not all students are going to be able to learn virtually the way they need to. That's a given. There are going to be parents who want their children virtually because they're scared to bring them back into school, but that's not going to be the best environment for that child. The only environment that's going to provide the type of education is in with the teacher. But now we have teachers, but now our teachers are scared of.
well, but it's safer for our teachers at home.
You know,
And
so
so
It's
it's,
like, it's this conflicting goal if they're asking us to choose, and it's like, which arm do you want? Which is your favorite? That's what it
Right.
feels like. It keeps me up at night. I mean, I don't know if you can see the back, but I
well, that was my other point. There are 5 people outside of me, 5 people in this room that I promise you that have lost more sleep over this in the last few months than you'll ever know. of trying to sit there, and find answers to things that there aren't answers for. And when you ask a question, 5 more questions pop up with no answers. And yet we're being expected to sit there and find those answers. And we have all kinds of critics, and critics who think that we should already have all this figured out. But the reality is, a lot is being put on a few people. And we're not Arlington ISD, we're not Fort Worth, we're not Dallas. I don't have 10 of her. I don't have 10 of Mike Holguin. I don't have, 10 Brian Franklins to sit there and help problem solve all that. We have one of each of them. And they put in a lot of hours to sit there and put in planning to sit there and provide the best opportunity we can for our students.
We're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. But if you're asking, are they putting us in a position to choose? Absolutely. And it doesn't matter if it's Kennedale or the biggest district in Texas. You have to choose because they're conflicting goals.
Monday, we sat in here in a meeting Monday, and I said to everyone, we've got to get a plan out. And everybody was like, frantic, and, they didn't, everybody was like, they wanted to be perfect. And I'm like, guess what? It doesn't matter what we put out right now, because in this environment, we can put out the best thing ever. But everybody is so far on different ends of the spectrum on this situation, and where they lie, they're going to criticize everything we do. We just have to do what we know is best and go with the route that we feel is best for our kids and for our staff. And that's where we've moved,
One thing my thoughts are kind of, I agree with everything, but I think our teachers it's going to be scary, it's going to be different, it's going to be dangerous, but they are essential employees. Just like, aren't all of y'all working? We're all essential employees, and that means we are putting ourselves every day out there in danger, and we can get stuff. The nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the policemen, they are all putting themselves out there, and there's a certain amount of risk, and that is scary. And I realize that, it's so different and it's so hard, but at the same time, it's like we've got to get our mindset of, this is where we are. What can we do to have solutions?
These are my children.
These are my kids, and nobody would be at home with my kid if they're going to do online learning. There's a lot of us who would have kids at home. No, we need them to go to school, and I know there's lots and lots of issues and problems, but I think that's my thought, is that we have to get to the point that, okay, here we are, what can we do? These teachers are essential. What can we do to help them to do the best that we can? And we may go online completely, but right now, we have a lot of parents that want their kids, that need their kids at school. What can we do?
We're about 50-50 with that form that we sent out. We're about 50-50. It was 78%, but now we're about 50-50, because I think as the numbers and stuff. Our commissioner actually said something that actually rang very true with me, and I've used this analogy a few times now. He said, it's like we're at war, and it's affecting all Americans across our entire country, and we're all going to be asked to sacrifice. And then I started thinking about that. We're all going to be asked to sacrifice. But you think about, when's the last time Americans were asked to sacrifice? It wasn't in my lifetime. I doubt it was in any of your lifetimes. World War II was, I believe, the last time that Americans were truly asked to sacrifice for a cause. And now this is affecting all of us. And it's going to take some sacrifices. And I don't know that our society is ready for that, and that's a big thing. So,
One thing I didn't mention in our plan, but seems relevant, we do have a specific social emotional learning component that we are going to be embedding in our plan K-12. So Dr. Devlin's working on that. We have some specific pieces. We're going to outline by grade level. Here's what's going to be done. When is it going to be done? We're building it in. So, for example, at the high school, I was talking to Mr. Hagel recently, and he has an idea. It depends on how the calendar goes, of having a 0 hour where we sitting here not part of or living this tragedy. It affects all of us, and it's really hard, but we're gonna make it work. We're not gonna give up. We're gonna put something out there, and it's gonna be good, and then we're gonna think about it, and we're gonna make it better, because we're gonna take care of our kids, and we're gonna take care of our teachers in the best way that we can. We don't have any other choice, and we're not gonna give up.
And we do care,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Do we have anything set up for teachers to speak to a counselor?
Social emotional learning, we were actually just talking about that.
Because
We need
this
it
is,
for our staff.
we're gonna need it for our staff, and, as a husband of a teacher, friends that teach and that kind of thing, and a lot of them are gonna be stressed out about this, and for good reason.
They already are.
And, with the unknown and with everything else going on, the health situation, your health, you don't want to bring something home to your child or to your mother. I think we need to have somebody available for them to speak to.
Did I hear that TRS was working on a plan for early bridge to retirement for at-risk population teachers?
I didn't know that.
There is some mental health
Right,
availability through TRS.
okay.
I heard that they're talking about that now, that, for the older teachers, they're giving.
Well, it's a good option. I mean, would hate to lose people. I mean, that would be
Right.
awful. But if it's between your health
at-risk
and that,
population,
then
Because they over 60, is it?
There's no way they can fund it.
Right,
No, there's
I
not.
agree.
Fund
Yeah.
TRS right now.
I agree, but
And so, again, it's one of those things they throw out there to appease us,
Sounds
Right.
good.
but the reality is, it's not, it doesn't work.
How feasible is it? Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, they're not gonna be able to fund our schools at the level they did last year, and yet they're gonna compress our tax
Require
rates.
more,
And-
ask
and
us
so
more,
I-
give us less.
Part of what we're not doing, and I know we don't have time to do it, is we're not providing education to our parents and staff about the realities of what we're having to do. And so they're all filling in that hole with their own concern, legitimately, but we don't have anyone out there explaining the reality. If you choose to educate your child at home because it's safe, the reality is they probably will not get the same level of enrichment that they would if they're at school. Please accept that. I am befuddled with the idea that someone says, my child can't go to school because of COVID, but they need to participate in extracurriculars with all those kids. I am befuddled by that concept. It doesn't make sense to me. Again, so there's another dynamic that I don't see in some of those discussions.
well,
I don't-
ULIS, where Austin teaches, they said, you don't do extracurriculars unless you're one of the ones you choose to attend in the classroom.
That's not what
You
TEA
can't do
says
that
you have to
anymore.
make it available.
A lot of districts said that, we didn't put that information, but let's just wait till we have the final word. They said you could, and then they said you couldn't, that's not an option. So I don't know what they put out, but it's different now, it has to be.
Yeah, it was
TEA
more than
mandates
just
that if
that.
you have to receive that, and I am confused by the reality of what we face in that. It's just,
well, or even I'm glad that the kids are gonna get to do some CTE, but the same thing, if you can't come to online learning, should you be able to go to the elementary school and help teach, do the ready, set, teach?
Or culinary arts.
Should you be able to go be around all those kids? I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you're like, there's
we're-
no rhyme
we're
to.
not doing a good enough job putting out the dilemma that we have. People just expect you to come up with a plan to teach their kids at home the same way they're taught at school. And teachers are gonna expect you to come up with a plan that says, I can't go to school because I have, my mom lives with me and she's elderly. And they're gonna expect you to somehow come up with a way that they get paid and work in a different environment. And you have another group of teachers said, I gotta take temperatures, I gotta take them to the bathroom, I gotta wash their hands, I gotta teach in class, and I gotta teach online. How am I gonna do that? And we aren't communicating that. I'm doing, one-on-one, trying to say, I don't have the answer. You're right. Which hand do you want me to cut off? Pick one.
You
But
can't have it all.
we can't,
And we
but
don't have the normal outlet, hey, we'll have a meeting, we get some type of group together and explain all this in one big room, because you really don't have that anymore. And putting something on paper is nice, but not being able to look at that paper, read through it, and go, this is specifically what I need to ask you about this.
decisions are being made by families over
Yeah.
health concerns legitimately.
Yes.
but their expectation for education is that it's going to be the same as if their child was in school. And we have to be honest about saying, it will be as good as we can make it, it will not be the same. And so it's an easy choice to say shut down. Just shut down and teach, that's the easy, safe choice. But we have to accept that we're gonna have educational deficiencies in a lot of kids, and we as a district are gonna be accountable to the state for saying, why are your scores dropping dramatically? We say, well, because of COVID, and we're teaching online. I said, well, it's the same level of education, isn't it?
Here's what I'll say, and I should have put this out there. You can have a kid who's 1 year behind in reading, and with the right program of intense remediation every single day, they can make 1 year progress in 6 weeks.
Okay?
Trauma, like the trauma that could befall us if we're not very intentional and thoughtful as we move forward, takes years and years and years and years, if ever, to overcome. And so in terms of academic outcomes, yes, when they come to school with the right program and the right training, students can make accelerated progress. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've done it with my 2 hands. Like, it is possible. You can do it. Trauma is different. Like, people who experience childhood trauma is different. So when I said I'm prioritizing health and safety of our staff and students, that's why. Because I think that in this particular case, we talked about this before, it's important that our staff feel supported and safe. It's important that our students feel supported and safe. Whether that's at home or at school, it depends on the way that it's set up. But we've talked about this before. I love being in education. My favorite part of the year is now, when everybody's had summer and they're excited and we come together and, we do fun things in competition and you make funny videos and you do all that. It's like that, the pep rally before the start of the year and everybody's on board, and we can't do that this year. And we have so much extra stress and worry and uncertainty and all the kinds of things, and we can't even do one reason why I got into this field is I love it so much. I love the beginning of the year and how it feels to be together and we're all working towards the same goal. We can't even do that this year. So what you're saying is absolutely accurate. I agree with you. You're having to choose between 2 things that are very important, which aren't your favorite, and putting that on top of fear and uncertainty and all the things that come along with the pandemic, and then we can't even do any of the team building, socializing, face-to-face contact, connecting with other humans.
The
that
relationship building.
normally makes all of this better,
But then,
and is hard.
you can't get the teachers on board if they're not on board with their own comfort level yet.
Absolutely.
And I know we're talking about a calendar that says they got 3 weeks. Well, are we not engaging them to try to get in now? I mean, are we not, maybe they don't want to show up now. I don't know, but
Okay, so this is where we have the dilemma that we face. State of Texas, with the great way that we have contracts set up for educators, our teachers aren't on actual contract right now.
Right.
So to bring them in, you're paying more extra days, that's been part of the problem. Like you said, right now we have Dr. Vu, we have Mr. Franklin, we have Mr. Hogan. We don't have all these
Until
other
when they all flying
people.
solo.
Are we allowed to communicate with them though?
I'm sorry?
Are we allowed to communicate with them? I think what John said is more just communication.
I mean, my wife wants to
Our
go into,
principals-
can I go in my classroom and start getting ready? That's just a simple question. And the answer ought to be yes. If we can check your temperature, whatever we have to do, the answer should be yes. I think there are teachers out there that if they just have the little things available to them, their comfort level goes up, and you'll have more buy-in, and then you'll have more buy-in that we're gonna do the best we can for our kids with what we're doing. But they're sitting out here in a land where they don't know what the answer is, and we're not helping them, because we haven't really
Filling
told
in
them.
information with negative.
And we just had the meeting with our principals. We told them we need them to start, Mr. Holgain's voiced that. They need to start coming up and cleaning out and helping separate their desk and spread, do the social distancing,
You can come up. It's
Yeah,
allowed.
it's allowed,
We just can't make them.
yeah.
But it helps with the
Then put it out there, it
anxiety
is.
of everything. If, okay, I left here in March, everything is a zoo, what can I be doing now? I mean, I know from being in the classroom, and I know Rebecca, from being in the classroom, you want to, okay, these are the things I can control. I can fix my room, I can fix some of these things.
We're
I'll-
really hard spotting Kennedale because they're still repairing the roofs.
Right, I mean,
I
that,
got
it's,
that. I got that.
Either.
Yeah.
That causes additional stress. I couldn't find a stapler the other day, and I was trying to share, so I couldn't find a stapler because all my stuff is back boxed up, and they were doing the floors. I don't have a space either. It's very stressful. gonna.
All those
visit Delaney,
things.
But we've said they can come in, but we have, it's the COVID crisis, we have the roofs being repaired, at the same time we have a pandemic, at the same time, all of these things.
Well, we chose to fix the roof, so that's on us. but,
We
you
didn't
know.
know
Oh.
that all this was gonna happen.
Those needed to be fixed, so we're.
They did, but we, you know, I'm just speaking from the, you know, my wife's gonna be on the front line, she's gonna be exposed, I'm gonna be exposed, you know, and I'm at the age where I accept that risk, I understand that, she accepts that risk, I understand it, but what she doesn't accept is the idea that I don't even know, we're making it, because you don't know what it looks like yet either, but they're out there going, it's gonna hit me on now, August 10th, and I'm gonna spend 3 weeks trying to get ready for something that if I just had a little more time to work on it, you know, going to staff development, great. What teachers wanna be, they wanna be in their classroom getting ready to teach. They don't wanna be sitting in staff development, they wanna be getting in their classroom, getting ready to teach for the most part. And-
So the staff development is gonna be focused on what teaching is gonna look like in the
Okay.
fall of 2020. So one thing that happens a lot is you have people, and this is normal, we have new technologies, we use them to recycle old ideas, right? So like, we had these iPads that came out 2011 or 10 or something, oh wow, that's really cool, I love this iPad, and you can do all these things, and it has a camera, you can do, I think I need to stand for it. I need to stand for it, this is really great, but I think I need a keyboard, because, you know, you can, so then all of a sudden, you take this iPad that at the time cost 3 times more than a laptop, you got a stand, and you got a keyboard, and then you had
Well, that time.
a laptop with an iPad screen, like, this is normal, right? And then you always have the people emailing, oh, we're gonna, but you don't hear people saying, oh, but what about the quill skills? Like, they're not gonna have their quill skills, so we have to talk to teachers about what opportunities can be used with the new technology that we're giving them to transform learning. Not just take it and recycle old ideas, but really do it differently. Like, we are talking so much about what's negative about the remote stuff, but there are a lot of opportunities to do some really cool things that we haven't done before because we're gonna be one-to-one, and because all of our students are gonna have access to internet at home. Is it gonna be perfect? Absolutely not. But there's an opportunity to do some really awesome stuff. We can't do that until we can bring in teachers, here's some ideas, here's some things, and then let's figure it out. So the approach we're taking at PD is freedom within boundaries. Here are the guidelines. We need to make sure we do these things. A lot of them are aligned with what we have to submit to TA. Okay, go with your team,
So,
figure that out.
I'm gonna
So
interject,
PD is
you
collaborative.
asked what are we taking off of teachers?
Mhm.
Well, part of it is that alignment and those pieces and training them to where it is seamless, to where it's not such a burden on them. That is the big part of the PD.
Well, I think giving them a curriculum, they've not had a curriculum they could go to, I mean, the idea was, you go find it, and all these
So
resources,
we
fine.
found a lot of stuff for them. We're gonna have adaptive software, that's another thing. When you asked that question, I didn't get to respond. So one of the things that we talked about is, Mr. Strange is not here today, but he's brought it up a lot. Adaptive software, something that gives us immediate feedback, responds to the student, gives individualized information. We haven't had that K-12 for all of our students before. We're gonna have something in reading and math. It's not perfect, it's certainly, I would never advocate to use a piece of technology to replace a human teacher, because teachers are always gonna be better. But teachers have a lot to juggle, so maybe, the students are working on this, that frees up a little bit of the time for teachers to work individually with certain students, and then they can swap. But they have their own Chromebook, so we're not gonna have to take 10 minutes to disinfect everything and, swap them, and so we do, it's not enough. I'm telling you right now, we are asking too much of our educators in the United States right now. We're asking too much, we're expecting too much, but we are trying to take some things off their plates by giving them Chromebooks, by giving them training. They are going to have better curriculum than they've had before in terms of just resources and supplies. It's all going to get better next year, of course, but we're trying to take some things off because what TA pandemic is asking of teachers, or educators, principals right now is unreasonable. They can't even build their master schedules yet. We didn't know if that's face-to-face or virtual, and you don't have to, TA
How many
said,
kids?
How many
families don't
kids?
have to commit until 2 weeks before. A high school master schedule is an absolute bear. The counselors are trying to put this together, and you're telling me that parents can decide to go home or at school until 2 weeks before?
Right.
That's unreasonable. So the people who are making these decisions haven't been on an actual campus, maybe ever, but in a long time. So
Which is
have
why
to
we
take
sent
it.
out the form, and then
But the-
that's changed
But
now.
the public doesn't know, again, the public just knows their child goes to school and,
Yeah.
if we had added a person, again, adding someone who can provide information, put it out there so people at least can see it, is a worthwhile investment, because the public doesn't know, I need to know before the 20th, so I know what classes I can get your son in or your daughter in versus those who are gonna be at home. They don't know that. They just assume they can show up and it's there.
Well, and in that note, because a lot of, on social media and different things, you know, they quote the TEA rule. But if we did explain to them why we did the deadline and why that is, then yes, that's TEA's rule. It is, but here's the reason. If you want to be in these classes, and but they don't know that. And most parents don't realize, or haven't sat down and really thought about in this pandemic of everything of, wow, we don't know if we can offer that class because we don't know how many kids are going to be here. But if we do more communication with it, it might help in that situation and realize, no, it's not just TEA had a deadline. Yes, they did. But
And
the
I'm not
reason
taking
why
anything off anybody's plate either here, I'm sorry.
I know, so you're talking about us taking that stuff up,
I'm
yeah.
putting more on your plate.
loading us up.
yeah.
I'll show you my bags at the end of the week.
I know you have, I appreciate everything,
We
everyone.
talked a lot about the academic part. You know, the other half of it is basically the getting into it is the actual operations and how it
Task
works.
force.
You know, you've seen that part of the plan as well. Do you want a quick overview of that, or do you want to, you just have questions that you want answered? I mean, how do you want to go about that?
You know, I read it, you know, and my first thought is, you know, how impossible is all of this to function with? And that was my first thought.
Completely.
And so, you know, maybe the discussion should be, do we really have to do this piece? Is this piece gonna make all that much difference,
I'm
you know?
looking at the rubric and trying to just meet all this is what's required to ADA.
We've had numerous conversations that we're going to do the best of our ability, but the reality is, you know, when we're talking about social distancing, we're going to try to social distance students, but is that going to be a 100% guarantee? No. It's not going to be feasible all the time to social distance students.
I mean,
So we're going to comply with the guidelines as much as we can. You know, we have our strength and conditioning camps going on. That was a conversation with our coaches before we started that. We had a room full of coaches spread out in here talking about, you know, what the guidelines were, what we needed to do. And we said we're going to follow them, but are you going to be able to follow every single guideline? If you follow the CDC guidelines, how do you spot somebody on squat or bench and follow CDC guidelines of social distancing? You don't.
how do you use a weight machine when you tell the kid can't use a basketball at elementary school? I mean, they can't touch the same ball. I don't understand that process. And so, you know, it's okay to be inconsistent. I'm not sure it is. I mean, I'm not sure it is because, you know, they complain about, why aren't you wearing your mask? Okay, well, I'll wear my mask. You know, I'll wear my mask. In public, in a classroom, a teacher can't wear a mask and talk to her students. You know, maybe, it may be good for the students to wear a mask because then they might be a little more quiet. But again, she's gonna spend, there's something I saw that all the things that the teacher will say during the day, no, don't use your mask for this. No, you can't do it with that. So when is she teaching when she spends all the time worrying about masks or worrying about washing hands or worrying about this, you know, when her job, you know, she just wants to help these kids get an education. And, you know, how many seconds a day they spend in a sink doing this when it takes them 2 minutes to get from their classroom, and you want to have instructional minutes, you want to have lunch, you know, they're going to be at lunch all day with social distancing unless their number's cut in half, right? They'll be in the lunchroom all day.
I don't know about all day, but, you know. And that leads us to the other part of this is the calendar of why we were bringing the calendar to y'all tonight, so.
I mean, I didn't mean to cut off. Anybody else wants to get, I mean, I looked at, I appreciate you doing it. I just am, just wondering how it can be accomplished and provide education. And in that circumstance, Dr. Vu, probably not a little bit different. I say we're here to get their education. I'm not sure not washing their hands when, you know, that study out of Germany says the transmission rates in elementary age students is almost negligible. So,
My personal experience with young children in school right now is different than that data set.
really.
You know, it's fine until it's your child.
Well, I agree. But then I don't want anybody on the backside saying, my child is not achieving their maximum potential because they're not getting educated.
At some point, we're just gonna have to say, this is the best we can do.
Right,
Which one's your favorite?
And,
yeah.
you know, this is the best we can do to educate them. This is the best we can do to keep them safe. And if there's a choice between the two, we're gonna keep them safe first and then educate them.
Then we better express that to our teachers, because I don't think that's, there is some sentiment out there that we don't care about our teachers, and we're putting them in harm's way without consideration.
So in the screening will be temperature check. That's basically what we're talking about, right? I mean, because the questionnaire doesn't come into effect unless the temperature check doesn't work, right?
Yes, so there'd be an additional assessment by the school nurse at campus.
Yeah.
If they have a temperature, or if they're symptomatic, or they're presenting signs or symptoms.
Okay.
Which is again, additional discussion, feeding time.
Because we have to check one of these off on the internet every morning before we go to work. And, you know, no one even looks at it now. They're all just checking no and putting their ID badge number in, submit, you know.
And my kids, in my children's school, they have a laminated thing that they give all the parents with the check things, and when you drive up, they hold it up. It's just like you take a marker and you
Yeah. So the temperature check will be basically that's our safety. That's
Just
our
like giving
fencing for our
Motrin
staff.
before you
I
get
mean,
out of the
I'm just
car.
thinking of our
Well,
people.
our parents need to be checking their students at home.
Right.
Our staff needs to be checking themselves at home.
Yes.
You know, that is the main line of what we need to be doing.
Well, I think we can have an expectation of our staff to do these kind of things, but I'm just thinking of what the kids will be bringing in every day that, you know, how do we protect them from, because I know, you know, if you expected them to fill this out every time before they came to school online and submit it to be cleared.
Well, then you get into HIPAA.
Well, who's gonna read it?
Exactly.
A whole lot of,
Exactly.
a bit of, you know.
Exactly.
We don't have personnel to do.
What about
more than the-
hand washing stations? Have we looked at hand washing stations? Are those just unavailable right now? I know you can get those mobile hand washing stations.
Yes, sir, we did, and really the hand sanitizing stations that we purchased,
Okay.
will fulfill that
Okay.
responsibility.
So, I mean, we put those in the classroom. They don't have to all go to the bathroom to wash their hands to
Yes.
satisfy the,
That was part of the problem. It
Okay.
was like, we know they're all gonna be able to be in there for 20 seconds, washing their hands, all, you know, 2 times a day. We wanna try to encourage them to wash their hands throughout the day, but how many hand sanitizing stations did we buy, purchase throughout the district? 48?
I don't know the exact count, but we got a lot.
Yeah.
okay.
I think 48 of them to spread out through the campuses, you know, for that purpose. And they're touchless, which means that you just stick your hand under it, and it just, so they don't ever have to touch anything. We have bought water fountain, refillable things to replace the water fountain. The other ones will be shut off. And all they can do, each kid will have their own water bottle, and they stick their water bottle under it, and it automatically fills it for them. So there's no sticking your face over anything. So we're talking about in common areas, wearing masks. In classrooms, we're trying to socially distance them so that we don't have to sit there and they have to constantly wear the mask. If the families want their kids to wear the mask, then that's going to be up to the families. Inside the classroom, we're providing PPE for all of our staff and for our students. So we're, you know, I don't know, it says draft on there. And right after we put that out Tuesday evening, the very next day, the governor comes out and says something else, and now you've got a whole nother scenario to deal with. It's a draft. It is going to stay a draft for a while because it will be a working document. So,
Do we have we thought about any teachers that don't want to wear a mask or any students that don't want to wear a mask?
well, right now, the governor's, and this is another issue to think about. We have a governor's decree that says students under 10 don't have to wear a mask. Well, from your experience, what grade level is 10 years old?
Third,
Third grade and fourth
Third.
grade?
Okay, but could you have second graders that are, you know, fall into that? Could you have fourth graders that could fall into that?
yeah.
So, and now you gotta
And
know.
I can
Well,
assure
the
you
hard part
that
of
they,
masks is that they're not really protecting you, they're protecting others from you, right? I
Yes.
mean,
and I can assure you, second graders can
It's-
drool and pick their nose and do all the stuff that, you know.
we are purchasing face shields for students for the purpose, you see the dividers on that, but if they're doing some activities, they can wear face shields and not have to have the dividers and the mask. We're trying to incorporate other things to where we're going to facilitate it without, but our staff, we are buying shields for them as well. And then we will have masks that will be provided.
Stuff
Anything I
like
left
this-
out there?
These practical guidelines, things like this, that are, I guess, formed from what the state's telling us, I certainly would make it public consumption, because it just starts preparing their mindset that it's a new world we're living in. And these are the things, because the closer we get to September, I think as time goes on, eventually parents are gonna have to go back to work. And, right now, we're kind of in a, for lack of a better phrase, a honeymoon phase with this, that some people are able to just stay home with their kids. But eventually, it's gonna come, the economy's gonna have to come back, and there's gonna be parents that have no option other than to send their kids to school. And when that hits us, they need to be prepared with things like this. And I would certainly, publicize it, but I would say this is early on. We're getting,
Have that out.
we need to make sure that everyone's, that our parents are getting this in their hands, and we're screaming it from the rooftop. This is the guidelines the state is giving to us. This is a working document, but you need to read through this and start understanding. This is, school's gonna look different. I think that we can't publicize this enough. I like this document. I don't like that we have to endure this, but I do like that it's laid out pretty organized and pretty well, and goes through the sections.
This practical stuff that parents are gonna need, they're gonna need what the first day looks like when they drop their little child off.
Right.
And know that you can't go to that door because there's too many of you. You gotta go to this door, and you have to stand 6 feet apart, you're gonna get your temperature taken. There are gonna be people come to school that first day and say, what?
Well,
I have to go
that's
where?
the next thing, is that
So-
I assume we're thinking about egress
So-
plans
Yeah,
for
I
each
mean-
campus individually. that,
Yeah, where
know,
those
What we were
kids-
planning on
think
doing
about-
is when we
can't
come
come in
back,
one door anymore. It's gonna have to be multiple doors of egress, so,
Yes, sir, the plan calls for, on the campus level, campus-specific plans. Kind of breaking this down a little bit, this is the overall umbrella for the district, and for parents to kind of know what the bigger picture is. And then from the campus level, they'll have more specifics. For instance, like we always have the door where we drop kids off in the bus.
right,
Then we have the drive-up, drop-off area.
Right.
We've got the pedestrian walk-up area. And
Right.
so there's already some designation as to where people come in to different doors.
Okay.
We're just gonna make sure that they're more clearly defined, and that they understand the reason why, even if you are walking up and this door is closer, we need you to go to this door instead.
Okay.
Because to keep that distance, and also so we can really legitimately read those temperature checks. If we have too many kids trying to get in at once,
right.
and the bell's about to ring, then you know what's gonna happen. We're gonna, it's possible to skip a few, not intentionally, but obviously, and that's gonna be explained to the parents with the more campus-specific plans.
And we need to get that out as quickly as possible too. That'll be really reassuring to parents to just know the doorway that they get their kids in and out of school from. That's something really practical.
we
and I
plan on
think will
making
go a long way.
videos that we're going to release for each campus that shows the protocols of that campus, so the parents know, and they can watch it with their kids.
I think that's great. I mean, because parents,
That'd
that
be
will give them
reassuring.
reassurance of, okay, this is what it's gonna look like, and, oh, the school has thought about this, and I know with the
What the
videos,
signage means in the hallways that
yes.
we're gonna have to,
The
on the
videos
floors
that they
and on the
did at the
windows.
spring were,
We went so far as to we bought arrows for each campus,
Good,
put down in the hallways to get the kids to where they need to go.
good. Good. Well, and like I say, publicizing that, and getting it in the hands of parents that, you're not, don't think about we're all going in through one door anymore. It's gonna be different. We're gonna use all the doors, and, so that when we get our swipe cards, that'll be even better.
What else?
Are we gonna have a walkthrough day for parents?
A what?
Mention that before it's on the list.
Okay.
We
A wa-
might need video, because
Or something to show, I mean, so they can go and say, okay, how do I do this? Because they're, I'm at the high school on Fridays, folks. The idea that they're gonna show up more than 10 minutes before the bell is laughable.
Oh, my goodness.
And so what are you gonna do?
It's our, we started those conversations at,
Well, I'm just telling you that high school students aren't gonna get to school 45 minutes early if they don't have to have their temperature checked so they get in and stay socially distant. It's not gonna happen.
They'd have to take
It's
their
the
earbuds
same thing
out.
we've been going
Well,
through.
I do a lot of things.
This is not new.
You have to have 50 dads out there with temperature
Parents
checks.
dropping off kids, dropping them off late, dropping them off right before, it's still the same thing.
Hey, I've done that.
And there's a 5,000 negatives we can think, I mean, I think we have a good plan, and we will keep working towards the details of the videos and all the
We'll be
stuff. I
flexible,
mean,
and
let's,
If something comes up and there's a problem, we don't have enough, staff at one door to get everybody through,
we'll fix it.
put some more people there, or suggest this section of people go to this other door.
I will reiterate, it has draft written all over it, I mean,
Right.
it
No,
will be a
no,
working
exactly.
document
It
for-
should. I would-
by some time.
It
It'll
should.
probably be still a draft after we start, because it's going to be,
Well,
gonna
I have a
change after the
disclaimer at the
first
bottom
day of
of every
school.
page that, this is all mandated and dependent on state guidelines as they come out, because they come out every day something different, just like this TRS thing that I, heard on the radio that they were talking about.
And when you have a draft on it, you may get some good ideas from the public.
Right.
Let's take those, accept those.
and we have our Ask KISD email address for them to ask questions to.
Good.
Directing them, if they've got questions, we're trying to direct it to the appropriate person to answer. So we're asking them, instead of calling and trying to bombard our receptionists who don't have the answers, to email their questions to the Ask ISD so that it can get forwarded out to the right appropriate people.
But we are not, I know the colleges are talking about flipping the seasons. And has UAL said anything about that?
Well, I will say that, I don't know if you saw today, Dallas just canceled, and the public health just canceled Dallas, and they are, all athletics, everything is canceled. There's virtual learning and there's no athletics for the whole fall semester.
Dallas ISD.
I think the governor's gonna come out, I think we're gonna get a statement that says, the reality is, this isn't gonna work. I mean, he's getting an earful from everybody right now. So I think the governor will come out and say, I'm gonna direct the schools don't open until, that's,
They talked about Division II and III, or flipping the seasons,
I've heard that where you put like baseball and the non-contact sports with lower fan support, and at this time, and then put football in the spring.
we can't,
And then move, and then
we
push
can't
back
get
the
an education to our
basketball
kids and
on
don't worry
season.
about playing sports. I'm sorry, sports isn't the most important thing
It's
in
not.
what we're facing right now. And I'm not being mean to you, I'm just
No,
saying,
no,
the idea that
I
we're
don't take it
focusing on
personally, Jim.
how we
But
play
there will be
football
parents
when we
and
can't get.
students that think it is the most important thing.
You're right, but I mean, how do you play football and say I'm not worried about public health? I mean, how do you
No,
mix those two?
It's-
I will say, as you put this out there, if we go fully virtual, that's going to create its own unique challenges, because we have lots of teachers and staff who have young children. And so these parents who want synchronous learning and they want all these things, we're working it out with the teachers in the building.
Right.
But if they have young kids at home, we have a whole new set of problems that we have not included in this plan that we're going to have to work through, because the reality is that teachers have children. Staff members have children, and some of them are not old enough to stay at home alone. And so there have been several teachers who have said, I don't do very well filming lessons at my house. Can I come to school? Sure. I mean, bring your child to work day. Are we going to do just public school for essential employees? That's been the model that's run out there, because at some point, somebody's got to make a sacrifice. And if you want your kid to get great remote instruction, you got to take care of the kids. It's just going to create any challenges. So while, yes, that will solve some problems that we're talking about now, it will create others. It's just something we need to be ready for as a district.
Well, the main complaint I've heard about the online is parents saying, well, they sat at the computer every day, but they only got, 2 weeks of the 8 weeks done because they were at the computer, but they weren't doing their lesson.
Well, now TEA is requiring districts to report on that. We have to report daily progress
Right.
if they're at home. So
And the kids have to show daily progress.
And again, there is a check on us that's basically designed to fail. I mean,
Right.
the whole point of it, you know,
Throwing it back in our laps.
they're gonna say, look at these districts, and it's gonna be another reason to say, we don't need public schools, we're gonna have learning online with, sponsored by the state, you know? It's just, it's a circle that's coming to fall down on us, and I don't put it past them to say, well, looky there, the district isn't educating these students.
It's still an option. It's always been an option. You don't have to take your child to a public school. You can take your child somewhere else. You can homeschool, you can take it to a private school, you can take it to a charter school. You can do any kind of, a whole lot of things that you want to do at home.
Well,
We're gonna
But
take you
that's-
to the handout.
The kids that show up, we've got to teach them.
oh, you better
to the
plan
best
for some
of our
more, because the private school kids' parents are saying, I'm not paying for private school if they're online, and they'll be in the public school system.
This is
Anything
good
else on
work.
this
Okay,
draft?
This is good work. I'm
Yes.
glad you-
Come on.
I like what you guys
Go
got
through
on
it
this,
with
and like I said, it's flexible enough that we can make changes.
Are we gonna do the calendar now too?
We need to talk about the calendar.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm like, let's get,
Calendar's a big
that's
one.
gotta be a big one
Talk
after this.
football.
We probably should start.
Yeah, that's the next item on the agenda. Can we go on down? Are we ready to go down to that agenda item?
I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
so the calendar, there's a big push by numerous school districts to push back their calendars. A lot of the districts that are DOI that were starting early are now pushing back so that they can have later start time. One, so they can have time, more PD time with their staffs. That is a big part so that we can
Like
actually.
pushing back into September as a start?
No, just pushing, like, what we're proposing here is to push back to the start of August 26th,
Okay.
from August
For
12th.
both.
Well,
So basically, it's 2-week pushback. That would allow us to sit there and have more PD time with our, to do the things and bring in as we brought in new systems, and as, we still have the required trainings that we have to do with our staff, those haven't gone away, those requirements. We're trying to find other ways to implement those trainings with our staff, but yet incorporate the trainings that we really need. And to sit there and help with that seamless transition. What we are really working towards is having a seamless transition. If a student's in the classroom and they have to go off virtual for a little while, that it's just a seamless transition back and forth. When that kid comes back in the classroom, it's right there. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that our teachers are trained and know how to have that operate. We are trying to take a lot of the pressures off of our teachers that
right.
the anxiety that they're gonna feel. But they're only gonna get that if we have the PD time with them to get that well-versed with them. And make sure that everybody's got Google Classroom setups, and that, the other thing is when our kids come in, that immediately, they're all working the same way, so that if they do have to go off virtually, or we have to all go virtually, they're prepared and they're ready for that. We also have to have time for our staff to sit there and get Chromebooks out to people or students who may need Chromebooks. So that's going to be, another logistical thing. There's still logistics, getting classrooms set up the way they need to be set up, making sure that we're good there, making sure our protocols, just the training that we're gonna have to do just for COVID-19 is added, increased demands on what we have to do with the staff. So I'll kind of turn it over to you now, so.
So, in short, we need more time. I need more time, our
Right.
principals need more time, our teachers need more time, we need more time. We didn't get the final guidelines, and I say final almost in jest, but we didn't get the final guidelines until July 9th. And so, here we are, 1 week later, and we put together this plan, and we're, working through all these pieces, but you can put together the plan, but you actually have to do the pieces. Like, you can say, we're gonna do training on what formative assessment in a virtual environment looks like. So we
Right.
gotta plan the training, we gotta prepare the training, we have to do all the things, and so we need more time for that. And then, as Mr. G said, we have all the statutory trainings that are just required,
Right.
for various things. And then we now have these additional COVID trainings that are required. And so, before any of this even started, I was working on a local backing schedule, and I took it to the principals, and I wanted to get some feedback, tell them what you think about this. And everybody who looked at it said, oh, that's not enough time with my staff, there's too many trainings, I need time with my staff. So, district, we need time to do some things, the campuses need time to do some things, and then when I show up to teachers, oh, when am I gonna work? I need to, so everybody needs time at the beginning of the year, but anyway, but then that on top of all these additional requirements or additional things that we're asking of them, we need more time. As Mr. G said, a little while, they put a month, in advance, they put a month more time. So on both of these calendars, you have an August 26th start date. We have our new hires coming back on the 5th, and then we have 2 weeks and 2 days essentially to provide training, to give teachers time to collaborate and to plan, to give principals time to work through processes and procedures. One thing we talked about is we need a run through, because if we have a fire drill or we have kids coming in this door and going in and out that door, the adults need to know what to do before they can help the kids. And if everything's different, the adults need practice too. So we just need time for all of these pieces.
You know, another thing that came up in our principals meetings on Wednesday, we have new assistant principals that are coming into the district, and having time for them to sit down with Mr. Holguin and go through the fire drills and the things that, the protocols that are gonna have to do, that, you know, you're gonna have to make time for that.
Yes. So our choices are, well, we narrowed it down to two, and two that seem reasonable. We are going to start, or what we're proposing is that we push the date back to the 26th, and we do that either by adding 25 minutes on to the end of the school day. And as we've already discussed, most of that time, a lot of that time will be eaten up with just safety protocols. Or we push the last day of school to June 8th. So adding additional minutes will allow us to still end before Labor Day. And so you can kind of see we've embedded. So in option one, this is with the additional minutes, we have more PD built into the actual school year. So we have this chunk of time at the beginning, but then we've made sure that students get some time off every month, because students sometimes just need time to recharge. And then we built in professional development. So when they come back from winter break, we have a day off on the 1st, but then teachers have a day back in their classrooms to just get everything ready. If you look at option 2, we go into June and we don't have as many professional development days built in because we weren't able to do that. So Mr. G mentioned this before, but it's important to know that there's, speaking of conflicts, there's a conflict. Teachers are paid by the day, but the way they receive funding is based on student minutes.
Right.
So we have students have to be here 75,600 minutes. There's a recommendation of having at least 3 buffer days. So that's what we provided for you here. But teachers, it doesn't matter how long the school day is, they have to be here for 187 days.
State requires they be here for 100 days.
And that allows for PD time to be built in. So you're just determining how much PD time is to put in. And I'll say, from just to put this out there, there's not a great choice here. The best choice would be for COVID to never have happened or to be over.
Amen.
And to
I like
the
that one.
calendar that we put forth, you know,
I vote for that one.
but that's not a choice. I know that Mr. Cagle took, it was his idea, he took the extended day option to his task force, his teachers, they worked it through. It was important to them to not have to come back in June. So they proposed, they wanted that. But then also, as you said, kids are not going to show up 45 minutes before to get their temperature check. So he's built a master schedule that hasn't been approved or finalized yet, but it has a 0 hour. So for the 0 hours, he's built in a time so that all the kids are not coming at once. The lower classmen, so 9th and 10th grade, they're coming first. They're going to do the 0 hour, and then the upperclassmen come later. Upperclassmen who show up earlier because they ride the bus or for whatever reason he has.
The other advantage of adding in the minutes at each campus, as John pointed out, the transitions, the walking in the hallways, the bathrooms, you know, you're going to lose instructional time with stuff. Adding those minutes in allows to incorporate some of that lost time in there.
How many minutes a day?
So, okay, so you can look at the bottom, so you can see both of these calendars have 76,950 minutes. However, option 1 has 163 student days, option 2 has 171 student days. The 9 weeks are the same. For the staff, the first option has more flex days. So we have a bundle of statutory trainings that teachers can do online. Already, it's what they have to do per state guidelines already exceeds the number of flex days we had built in now. So when you think about exposure and you think about safety, one way to think about it is like a budget. So, you know, there's always some level of risk, but if way that it worked out, we spent, Tracy Williams and I and, we spent a lot of time counting and just making sure and going through and how many staff days is this and how many student minutes and going through. There aren't as many opportunities to embed those staff development days into the school year. Keep the minutes accurate and then not look for institutions.
And the option one, also with those PDs spread out through it, allows the teachers to collaborate to help with the
They're at the end of the grading
transitions.
period or somewhere near there, so they just have opportunities to reflect, reevaluate, and prepare. Like I said, there's not a great option.
I guess one of my questions is, looking at this, the only reason we had and I know that people love 2 spring breaks,
Sure.
but the only reason we had 2 spring breaks, when we even started that, was to balance the semesters. So on option 2, if you took out that and moved it back up, you wouldn't, you would take out a lot of that. I realize people like to have the 2 spring breaks, but,
Yeah.
we're in guess what? No other district really has 2 spring breaks. We had a reason why we were doing that.
I will say the
Now
2
that
spring
we're having
breaks
a
definitely causes problems.
Now
with the
that we're in a
calendar.
pandemic and we have all this, I don't really see how that is real,
Yeah.
something that we have to
a
have.
good
Like I
idea.
said,
I would
when it
take
was
option one and
balancing
take
the
out the national
semesters.
break.
Let me just
Do
put out
what?
there that we already published a calendar with a certain amount of flex days that teachers have already started working on this summer. So in terms of getting rid of April, sure, absolutely, that's something that we can talk about, but teachers, at least for option one, have already put in a lot of that time. And then the second thing is, the second semester, because we're pushing the start date up, already is longer than the first semester, and it's really important, in terms of GPA and all kinds of things, you want to keep them similar. And so I spoke with Dr. Devlin about this, and we talked about, well, in the spring you have testing, and that eats up a lot of instructional days anyway, and so it is more fair and balanced than it would be, but if you got rid of the April break, you're making them longer.
But not if we moved it up, if we moved, because then that would be, instead of ending June 8th, you would end right after,
June 1st.
June 1st, or you could even add just a couple of minutes and end on the 28th and only the teachers came back.
I think on option one, you are finishing on the 26th, the circled area right
Well, I
there.
see that, but you've added a bunch of minutes. What I'm trying to say is it really feasible for us to have is that a need to have 2 spring breaks? I know the reason why we did it in the beginning, and that reason is out the door. So to say that we're
I know
doing
when we
something
had-
because we've always done it
I think
is
when we had the
a-
DIC meetings, everybody was pretty much animate about keeping the
I will
April
say,
break.
when we're talking about checking with our stakeholders, and with this, we're just scrambling, trying to count and make sure that it's accurate. So I haven't taken it back I sent it to the principals, I shared it with the curriculum student services, I said, if you have time for feedback, I'd love to hear it. But I haven't taken either of these to the DIC because we were scrambling. We need to know when we're starting school, because master schedules need to go. But I will say, in the DIC, when I took it to them in fall, spring, recently, within the past year, there was a very strong support of April. I don't care what you're saying. It's different.
because we've
It's
spoiled
changed.
everybody. There's no doubt. That's just,
Well, it's all nice.
And the
yeah.
task force,
It's just
I
how
know
we've
the
done
high
it.
school
and going
task
on trips
force,
in April's
they
great.
they
but
are very
that's
much in
not the
favor of
point.
additional minutes, because of what it allows them to do with their schedule. And, there are concerns with our being able to have our teachers planning and to be able to sit there and incorporate the bathroom breaks and other things without adding the minutes at the other campuses, so.
Yeah, I initially was leaning towards option 2 only because it gave us more time for the unforeseen, just as in days, but it looks like to me that really option 1 gives us more time gives us more time every day to address the unforeseen, because that's the thing I'm concerned about, is that there's going to be, and I do like option 1 has more staff development in the first part of the year than option 2.
If we go fully virtual, then
Right.
like,
So it's only the minutes for the students who are attending personally that make a difference. Because kids at home aren't getting, I don't think they're getting 76,950 minutes.
Kids don't have to submit an assignment every day.
So it's only based upon the students that are actually,
This is the students who are face-to-face if we take face-to-face.
and so again, there's one of those inconsistencies. Why does it matter to TEA if kids at home can get away with it? Why are we worried about minutes for kids who are there, given the current situation?
This happened that year that there was ice and there was snow.
Mhm.
I'm sure you,
Right.
you know, so they changed it from days to minutes so that schools could add minutes to their days and not have to go, you know, through July. It just stuck, but they never changed the contract, and that's why it's.
Have you had any input from the teachers about adding the additional 25 minutes a day?
So I've heard from high school teachers, Mr. Cagle said he took it to his task force, and they're in support of it. Because of the schedule he built as a result. I know Ms. Pride shared some feedback. She said that she is concerned about the length of the day for kindergartners.
For
That
sure.
I agree with, and what we talked about is that has been spent hand washing and walking up and down the hall, most likely. When we took it to the Mr. Bowling's task force, I briefly said, we have to change our calendar, we need more time for all of these reasons. We can add it as the school day, or we can push it into June. And I said, I know this is a large group, you might not feel comfortable speaking out, but type into the chat box, and everybody who responded said they preferred extra minutes. Is that everybody? No. Is it a survey where we're getting empirical data? No, just because we're crunched for time right now, we're trying to move forward.
Yeah, but are more minutes best for the kids or are the days best for the kids?
It depends on a
The
lot of
age.
things. In COVID, I would say more minutes are better because with all of the safety protocol and they're moving and they're, you know, the way that they're doing it. Because just coming to school,
I guess it goes back to health or education.
So if we get them there, they're checked once. We add a day, they're checked twice. So, I mean, you get them there and you,
the exposure budget.
Yeah.
Bring them in at more days, there are more opportunities for them to be exposed. I mean, we never know. We're living in this uncertain future no matter what we choose. There's not a great option here.
You also, as a kid, as a student, you don't want to be in school in the middle of June. You know, there's things you want to do, you want to go.
I just think there are different dynamics. At the high school, a lot of the kids participate in activities after school, so to them, their day is already going to 5 or 6 o'clock. They're not going to probably perceive that 25 minutes as much as the elementary students who don't have those extra school, after-school activities. You know, I'll be up to my wife, it won't matter. She's there well past
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
She'll
but
be
the
there.
first grader being there 25 extra minutes.
It will be tough, yeah, I agree, it will be.
But I think the point that they're making is valid, that the protocols alone
Are going to take
are
25.
going to eat up 25 minutes easily, you know, into a day, you know, and so in order for us to get the instruction time, we're going to need at least 25 more minutes a day to,
And, you know, again, at the high school level, 40-minute classes probably aren't enough. I mean, I've always said that. They need 50-minute or more by the time they get them settled, started, taught. You know, shortening those classes makes it harder for the teacher to really get impactful educational opportunities, I think. So I think a longer day, if they're not adding more periods, you know, it may be beneficial at that level. So which arm, left arm or right arm do you want us to cut off?
So I'll say, from a teacher's perspective, just thinking about this, working the same amount of days, I'm coming 25 more minutes. That's a bummer. I mean, that's not what it'd be my preference. But I will say, at the end of the grading period, if I don't have a day to, a little bit of time to plan for the next grading period, and I don't have time to work with my team and, you know, with the QC and put in grades and do all the things, I'm gonna do that after school anyway. So I wouldn't choose to stay 25 minutes, but just looking at the way that the PD is built in, it'll be embedded into their school day. One
don't know of any teachers that are going to come till June 8th. But, I mean, working in June, teaching in June is miserable. However, I don't know that we need all the holidays that we have either. And I know I loved them. I mean, good night. I love holidays and I like vacations, but I don't know. But I mean, I think you know,
When
we
would
kind of
your
have to go with
graduation
one.
When would graduation be? If you're, doing it to June? Yeah, but the junior friends is going like,
Seniors, you go to the last day.
your junior friends are going like, he's leaving 2
Have
weeks?
we already
And I'm gonna be here
booked
for another
a
2
place,
weeks?
a place for
Do what?
graduation? Have we already booked a place?
Be
for-
back at UTA where we
Have-
have a contract with.
But we've booked it, I'm sure, haven't we?
Yeah, I guess we did.
What's the date?
I'm sorry?
What's the date?
I think it was like the 28th, 27th, 28th. But that's if.
I know,
if
but
we're
that
allowed
is,
to have input.
Well,
training.
it sounds like the people who are gonna work the schedule, that have given input, prefer option one.
mhm.
I can't say that with complete certainty because I will say that Mr. Cagle has advocated for the more minutes. He's spoken with teachers, he's worked with that. I have, and we took it to the task force, I sent it out via email, but I can't say with certainty that if we did a vote, that there'd be one way or the other. I would say that we could sit in this room with every teacher in the district and
500 plans.
chat about this until Friday. I mean, this is not we don't have great choices here. If you stay the extra 25 minutes, we have more time for the safety protocols, and teachers get more time built into the school year for planning and additional PD. To me, my dissertation was in professional development, and the best way that teachers learn is through dialogue. So give them something to work on, and then let them talk about it with their colleagues. That is the best kind of PD that you can have, working through real problems in authentic context. And so when I think of PD, I think of PLC. That's PD to me. I've worked in a district that tried to do PLC after school. You have to stay after school, or you have to get here at 7:30 and do that, and they try to build a new contract. It doesn't go well, because this person's late and this person's kid's sick, and it just doesn't go well. And so I would say, if we're talking about learning outcomes, if we're going to talk about learning outcomes, having the PD built in throughout the year and having additional time for teacher plan, I think that would lead to more successful learning outcomes than if we don't have time and teachers are expected to do it before school, after school, when they can do the work. But it's tough to say, same number of days, 25 extra minutes. That's hard. That's
But
hard to tell.
again, do you think, just again, speaking from what you hear, a lot of times our PD hasn't been that beneficial to our teachers.
Fair.
And so-
We don't have a professional learning department like
Yeah.
a lot of most districts do. We are working through that.
So if you're gonna sell PD to them,
Sure, that's
you need to
fair.
sell it to them that it
Yeah,
needs to be
it's
something that's
good.
beneficial to them.
Yeah, which takes money and time and training, right? So you're not gonna get the videos compared to, no, I'm just kidding.
Which is why we're trying to cut out some of the mundane, routine stuff and put that into a self-paced model to where we can get to the more in-depth stuff with them,
I mean, they don't like sitting through 12 hours of video and then getting 3 hours credit. I mean, that's kind of stuff they don't like 12 hours of
No.
development to get 3 hours credit. You know,
I'm
that,
the worst audience member, that's kind of scary thing. Is it going to be, knock your socks off, the best PD they've ever experienced, 2021 in their lifetime? It's not likely. Will it be better than what they've had before? That's the goal. I mean, I love doing this stuff with teachers, it just is a matter of time for planning it. But like I said, when I say PD, I'm not saying a sage on the stage, you sit down and listen to me, the all-knowing expert telling you how to do your job. No. What I'm saying is, here's a little bit of information. How about we read this article that's from a peer-reviewed journal, and let's talk about what it would look like in the context of our class, so that the teachers, the people in the classroom doing the actual work are the experts, and that's their PD. That's how I envision PD. So maybe there's some clarity in terms of how we're defining it. Sometimes there's a time and place for learning something new, and you do, and you sit and you watch somebody talk, and maybe look through PowerPoint. But in terms of teachers, the best classrooms in doing that, giving them something to think about, to chew on, and then giving them time to work on it and plan, they're gonna learn and grow and support learning in ways that they haven't done before.
And option
So
one,
my goal now is to pull some great articles, some great things for them to read that they can sit around and talk about and think about in terms of the context of their classrooms.
and option one gives them more PD.
And option one gives them more PD. Not so big burden to carry, like, now I gotta plan good stuff, but,
No, I-
I accept the
Pressure.
challenge.
I think it's
on.
stuff that's germane to what we're experiencing, the problems we're having. I mean, if you tell me we got PD once a month to take the problems that you're having, implementing what we're trying to put in place, and we're gonna work through those problems and try to help you out, that, I think they will appreciate that.
Yeah, I think they will too. And it comes down to, it's people, right? Like, if I could divide myself in 5 and go to every campus and do that, I would love to do that. That'd be the best job ever. So you have to really think creatively, outside the box. How can you use technology to support this kind of enhanced instruction? Like, what could that look like? And that's more so kind of chewing on.
Why did we not put a PD day in September?
Because we were counting minutes and days and
To get
we
the,
just had 2.5 weeks.
And they just started at the very end of August.
well, I'm just thinking after all that PD and then they start up, there's probably gonna be, right there's gonna be a real need for some initial, like you say.
Course adjustments?
Yeah, some group talk.
Sure.
Okay.
And then we have 2 in November,
Recalibrating.
and I'm just wondering, why we don't put one in September.
But you can have anything, but you can't have everything. So we can take Friday, April 2nd, which happens to be Good Friday. We can do that. We can take, no, we can't take Martin Luther King Day, that's not an option.
I'm just thinking, as they'll have all this initial PD, and then, right in that first month, after the first couple of weeks, that would be a prime opportunity to get some feedback and for them to
Sure.
talk
We
to
got
them.
2 days back-to-back in November.
That's like a recalibration time.
Right.
I like to think of September as the job embedded support time, coaching.
Okay.
I know we're limited with staff.
I trust your advice on this, so.
I am not the all-knowing city manager. I am saying, we don't have.
Well, I'm
the
not
options
either.
to-
Obviously.
But, I think if you offer opportunities during the year, even if it's not PD time, I mean, we got it, an hour or 2 hours after school someday. If you're having problems, let's come talk. I mean, maybe some won't go, but maybe some will.
In my previous job, that was my job. I did that. It was tough to get people there. They would come in September. But as the year went on, it was harder, and I completely understand that. They have professional responsibilities for personal ones too, and that's where I like to see that built into your,
Okay.
offering it is a great idea. It's
No,
better
we-
whenever.
Well, we need a
Okay.
motion on one of these.
I'll make a motion to
We got
approve,
2, let's go.
make a motion to approve option 1.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Good work. All right. That's the school calendar. Now then, personnel matters. We need to go in closed session for that?
Yeah, I'd like to go into closed session.
Okay, we're gonna go into closed session at 9:35 under 074, right?
What time?
Well, yeah, why don't you stay for a little bit shorter?
9:35.
35.
Good.
I'm covering up while people leave.
On.
10:54, we're back in open session. There's nothing to vote out of closed session. I think we've had a good meeting. We have our next meeting next week.
Next week is our regular meeting for July,
Okay.
Thursday.
I think it went smoothly tonight. I'm just going to poll board members to see how they think it went and what they think about next week, and start with Mr. Clark.
I mean, I think in a lot of respects, having a meeting in person is very effective. We're talking about budget and the information about getting back in. I think it's more difficult remotely. I'm in favor of going on and having a public meeting.
Mr. Ham?
Yeah, I think this was done very well, so I'm okay having a meeting in person.
Okay. Ms. Bisco?
Definitely think it's better to do it in public. Like I said, I've told a couple of guys before that I can't, in good conscience, tell a teacher to go back to the classroom when we're not meeting in person ourselves. It's just time to get through this and do the best that we can. So I'm definitely in favor of doing it in person again next week.
Mr. Brothers?
I'm in favor of meeting in person.
I am as well. I think this went really well. The social distancing was good, and, you know, wearing our masks like we did, and everything went pretty smoothly. So I'm in favor of us continuing this format for next week. Okay, is there anything else?
Wait, when we're having special at 6,
Special at
correct? Are we still having special?
No.
Okay, no special at 6.
I contacted, with all this stuff with the reopening, Holly and I have not had time to do the community meeting to do this stuff, so I apologize for that. And I apologize to Holly, but with getting the reopening plans and all that out, we've not had a whole lot of time.
Okay,
to do
I
that.
just want to make
So
sure I
just the
got
regular
that.
meeting at 7.
Change
Okay.
that to 7.
Okay. Anything else? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
10:56.
Thanks for staying, guys.